credibility gone. And her supposed best friend, the former Chancellor, he's gone as well. They're all gone. So why is she still here?
Mr. Speaker, I am a fighter and not a quitter.
This is CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching The Right Stand with me, Akanksha Swaroop. We are coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Federal Bank and Prime Time Studio. Now on 2nd of July, nearly 2.5 lakh people had come to hear a religious sermon of Baba Narayan Hari, also known as Bhole Baba, who once was a government official. But soon the religious event turned into a tragic one. 121 people, including women and children, have lost their lives after a stampede broke out during the satsang. Victims and their family are still recovering from the events that transpired on that fateful day. But the one man at the center of this horrific tragedy remains unaffected by what's transpiring. It's been over 77 hours and the Baba is still on the run. His blatant defiance is shameful to say the least. In fact, Babaji has now blamed anti-social elements for the stampede. His lawyer AP Singh maintains that he has no role to play as he left the spot before the stampede. 6 of Baba Bhole's aides have now been arrested, while his Mukhya Sevadar, Dev Prakash Madhukar, remains to be in hiding just like him. The police FIR, preliminary report by the SDM and even the administration have all blamed satsang organizers, and the preachers or the self-styled godman has not been mentioned or even named. On that note, let's also break down for you why the state in fact shares this entire blame. The first and foremost reason is that only 69 cops were deployed on duty. This when an 80,000 crowd was permitted to gather. It's different that, in fact, over 2.5 lakh people, in fact, gathered. One ambulance, no doctor or even medical personnel. The third reason, no senior police officer or magistrate was even stationed there. There was lack of oxygen. Doctors at Sikandramaul Trauma Center were, in fact, inadequately equipped. The NDMA norms for site map, evacuation process, all of them have been ignored. Now, amid the probe, politics also has already escalated. The leader of opposition, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, also met the victims in Hathras and asked the state government to probe these lapses. Now, the BJP in turn has accused Rahul Gandhi of being selective in its approach of asking questions. The Bharatiya Janata Party has asked why no sympathy for the victims of the Kalakurchi tragedy. Listen in.
मैं इसको राजनीतिक प्रिज्म से नहीं कहना चाहता हूँ, मगर प्रशासन की कमी तो है जी और गलतियाँ तो हुई हैं, तो ये पता लगाना चाहिए और शायद सबसे ज़रूरी बात कि कॉम्पनसेशन सही मिलना चाहिए। उन्होंने कहा कि प्रशासन की कमी है, उन्होंने कहा कि जो अरेंजमेंट वहाँ पुलिस का होना चाहिए था वो नहीं था।
आज हाथरस की इस हृदय विदारक घटना पर, इस हादसे पर, इस दुर्घटना पर जो राजनीति उन्होंने करने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं वो दुखद राजनीति, वो 100% राजनीति करने गए थे और दुख की बात यह है कि राजनीति बहुत सेलेक्टिव करने गए हैं।
All right, on that note, let me quickly introduce our esteemed panelists today. I am joined in by Mr. Sharad Trivedi, who is the spokesperson of UP BJP, Ms. Supriya Srinath, who is the national spokesperson of the Congress Party, Vivek Silas, who is the spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, Arvind Kumar Jain, who is a former DGP of Uttar Pradesh. In fact, I'd like to quickly begin in with Mr. Sharad Trivedi coming in on the aspect of accountability. Does it just end with the Sevadars, Mr. Trivedi? What has been the role of the district administration, the Uttar Pradesh government, not to forget primarily?
You see, this is an ongoing process. The investigation is still on. We have already appointed a civil inquiry. We have appointed a judicial inquiry. We are waiting for the report. Meanwhile, the hunt is already on for the culprits. Whosoever is there involved in it, no matter how high and no matter where, we are going to hunt them down. We are going to nail the responsibility and get the guilty to the law. The trouble is that the opposition is only interested in places where they are shedding copious tears only where Uttar Pradesh or where the BJP government is involved. What is the problem? Why don't they go to Belgavi?
No, Mr. Trivedi, this right now is whataboutery. I have the opposition very much over here and I'll be raising the questions and the problems with the opposition as well. But I want to ask you and know from you, why hasn't the SDM report or the FIR even mentioned the godman's name? The Sevadars were working on their own. Whose instructions were they operating on?
No, I have already said the inquiry is on. We are going to nail the guilty, whosoever it is. The names in FIR are
शरद
not.
जी, हिंदी में कबीर जी की एक कहावत है. शरद जी, हिंदी में कबीर जी की एक कहावत है, अब पछताए होत क्या जब चिड़िया चुग गई खेत. आप किस इंक्वायरी की बात कर रहे हैं? After 121 people have already lost their lives, many of them women and children.
No, हमारे पास कोई ऐसा तरीका नहीं. We can't hang people from the nearest lamppost just because the opposition is baying for blood. We have undertaken an inquiry. This is a judicial process. There is a judicial inquiry. There is a civil inquiry. The Honorable Chief Minister has taken a serious note of this situation. We are going to nail the guilty. We are not running away from the responsibility. We are going to nail the guilty and get these people to book. We are not going to spare anybody.
But Mr. Trivedi, you still not answered my question. Why has the godman not been named? He continues to be absconding even after 77 hours, and we have left everything to these grand inquiries that are being set.
The FIR, the prima facie, the FIR is written against the person who invites. It is against the organizers, not the invitee. Unlike what happened a couple of years back when Michael Jackson came to Bombay for a performance, and he had a warrant issued against him when there was a dispute between the state government and the organizers on tax basis.
All right, Sharad Trivedi, it's interesting to see that a Michael Jackson event has inspired the BJP to in fact pass the buck on to the Sevadars.
Get the guilty, no matter who the person is. We need to have an inquiry. We cannot we can't shoot people just like that. We are waiting for the inquiry. Let's just give it the inquiry to get its report.
All right, Mr. Trivedi, before I in fact go over to Supriya Srinath next, you said that opposition's baying for your blood. Why do you say that?
No. There have been 55 people who died in Tamil Nadu. There's been a Belgavi case where a woman was raped and she was forced to convert. In Bengal, there was a woman and her male friend beaten up in public. Not a single tear was shed for them. Is Bengal not part of India?
Fair
Does the opposition know the route to Tamil Nadu? They can't afford a ticket to Tamil Nadu. Now, suddenly, when there's something happens in a BJP-ruled state, then the tears come. There was a minor rape when Mr. Gehlot was in government in Rajasthan within 5 kilometers of his home. Not a single tear was shed.
Fair enough. Those questions are fair. No, those questions are fair. But I still want you to tell me, when it comes to the Hathras horror, how is opposition baying for your blood?
They are landing up in Hathras. Everybody is coming. There is a carrion tourism. All the vultures are landing up in Hathras. Why don't they go to the states where they have got their own government? They can at least get the inquiry done in their own government. It happens like in Manipur. Everybody was shedding tears for Manipur.
The chief minister went there. The deputy chief minister also went there. All right, I've taken your point now. Let me quickly bring in Supriya. Supriya, is this now becoming political opportunism? Because I'm sure Mr. Trivedi is also referring to Mr. Rahul Gandhi's visit today in Hathras.
Thank you for having me on the show. I'm usually quite aggressive in a TV debate, but I was there with Mr. Gandhi when he visited the Hathras victims today. And I cannot bring myself to speak forcefully because what I saw is a travesty of and a tragedy of the worst kind. Akanksha, I just want to take 30 seconds to tell you what I saw. Houses after houses, homes after homes have been wrecked. We met a young girl, we met an elderly woman, we met a husband, we met somebody who lost his sister. Women, you know, there were streets full of homes where women have died. Home after home. In Aligarh, Pilakhana, where we went first, there was a little girl who just kept sobbing and saying, my mother is never going to come back. There was an old woman who said, Meri beti ab kabhi wapas nahi aayegi. I think when you see tragedy of that kind, you can't talk the way the BJP spokesperson is. We went to Hathras next, and I'll tell you a very small incident that I saw there. There was a father and a daughter. He lost his younger daughter in the stampede. And he kept crying and saying, it is my fault. Meri galti hai, maine usko paisa diya, isliye wo wahan par chali gayi. Paisa na dete, to wo na jati. You know, Rahul Gandhi just simply held his hand and said, don't say it's your fault. जो हुआ वो गलत हुआ, लेकिन अपनी गलती मत करी बोलिए इसको, because he just couldn't stop crying. He just simply held his hand and said nothing. Rahul Gandhi gave a bite there and said, this is not about politics. I wanted to come and meet these people. A terrible tragedy has unfolded. And he's used the word vinati. He says, मैं विनती करता हूँ उत्तर प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री से कि वो इनका मुआवजा बढ़ाएं, थोड़ा दिल खोल कर दें. I don't think there's any politics there. And when you see tragedy of that kind, the kind of horror stories we heard, this little girl who tried to save her younger sister said there was stampede, there were bruises all over me, I could not see my sister breathe, I did not know what to do. Do we understand what happened in UP? And I will take just 10 seconds to say, the horror stories that unfolded after the stampede, absolutely the fact that LIU had given information, more people were expected, only 40 policemen were on duty. That set aside, the hospital, not equipped with basic infrastructure, no diesel in generator, no electricity, no staff. The doctor came after the DM reached. What are we talking about? And did you see the next day when the UP Chief Minister made the visit, and rightfully he did visit the victims. But when the UP Chief Minister made the visit, वो जो बड़े-बड़े फल के टोकरे होते हैं, जो शादी ब्याह में जाते हैं, वो मरीजों के बगल में लाकर रख दिए गए. And just the previous day, dead bodies were lying all over. I met a person who told me in Hathras earlier today and told Rahul Gandhi, there was a 6-year-old child. There was no claimant for his body because perhaps his father and his mother had lost both their lives. He was just lying. एक बर्फ की सिल्ली पर उसकी शरीर पड़ा हुआ था.
These are gut-wrenching stories,
and talk in the tone that we are talking.
No, these are gut-wrenching stories. These are gut-wrenching stories. In fact, you know, blood curdles when you hear of the kind of incidents that you have just narrated. It's also blood-boiling at the same time. But Supriya, you know, the charge that's coming from the BJP is not about, you know, why you have chosen...
I'm willing to answer that charge.
Yes, why you've chosen to go only to Hathras. It's the charge of selective empathy.
I'm willing to answer that charge.
Yes.
Absolutely not. What unfolded in Hathras is a huge tragedy. What unfolded in Hathras is a failure of the administration, is a failure of the police. But what unfolded in Hathras after the tragedy unfolded is a complete collapse of the state. I mean, we talk about these hospitals, we talk about being the third largest economy. We cannot provide people with basic oxygen. There were people who lost their lives after the stampede because they did not have oxygen.
By that logic, the question is also why has the Congress chosen to remain mum as far as the Hooch tragedy in Tamil Nadu is concerned?
Not at all, because in the Hooch tragedy, please Akanksha, find out the difference. In the Hooch tragedy, the Chief Minister and his deputy were active. The Deputy Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, who also happens to be the Health Minister, visited Hathras 36 hours after the tragedy had unfolded. He went there after the Chief Minister had gone. Should he not have been the first few people to reach Hathras? Is UP short on funds to make him fly? Could he not have driven? I mean, what? Are we going to politicize tragedies now? You went there, you did not go here.
Sharad Trivedi, how do you like to respond to what Supriya is saying right now? How would you like to respond to that? Because I need to go to Vivek Silas also.
We had the Chief Minister visiting the place within 12 hours. We had 3 cabinet ministers, part of a committee which was on the ground to help the victims. We had Additional Director General Agra and Commissioner Agra to inquire into to have a civil inquiry. Within 24 hours, we had a judicial inquiry launched again in this project. We already have got people arrested. The inquiry is still on. The trouble is कि यहाँ पे in UP, these people were brothers, they were sisters, they had a huge family to look after. But those people who died in Tamil Nadu, or those who died in Belgavi, or those who died in Sandesh Khali, they were avatars. They just landed up from heavens. They did not have families. They did not have brother, sister. The woman who was beaten up in Dinajpur in Bengal, she was not a sister. She was not a daughter. She was not a mother.
Akanksha, can I please make a small point?
These relations happen only where I am one with my sister on this ground. I am one with Supriya. Of what tragedy has happened in UP, we are not shirking. It's a horrific story. We are not shirking away from the responsibility.
All right, 10 seconds, Supriya. I need to go to Vivek. 10 seconds, Supriya, quickly.
You know, I just want to say one thing to the BJP spokesperson. Whatever our political differences may be, however bitter you may be towards me and however many angst I may have towards you, let us not talk about the departed souls. Let us not talk about victims of other tragedy the way you are. You're calling them avatars, you're politicizing, you're mocking this whole thing. Don't do that, please. People have lost their loved ones. People's families have been wiped out. There are little children whose mothers are never going to come back in any tragedy, not just in UP. Please don't make the statements that you're making. You are sounding insensitive, my friend. Don't do that. This is a human tragedy that has unfolded. There's a human being inside you besides being a BJP spokesperson. That's all I will say. Settle your political scores with me. Call me out. Say what you want to say to me. Please don't say these ugly, absolutely inhuman words that you're using for victims of tragedies, whether in UP or anywhere else. That's my only submission. Please don't do that. It's a terrible, terrible tragedy. There are loss of lives. There is loss of families. Please don't do that. That's all I will say.
All right, I think Sharad Trivedi's silence at the moment speaks volumes of its...
I'll just add one thing to it. I have agreed with Supriya, whatever she's saying. Yes, there has been a tragedy of unforeseen proportion. The trouble is that when the 55 people who died in Tamil Nadu were also brothers, they were also fathers, they were also sons. 300 people land up in hospital and not a soul from the opposition goes and sheds a single tear. Why do you cry with one eye?
Right now, the big question, Mr. Trivedi, is why are we indulging in this kind of whataboutery? Because remember, rules have been flouted. How were permissions given? 80,000 के लिए permit दिया गया, 2.5 लाख लोग gather कर रहे, मजाक बना रखा है. Vivek Silas, it's not just the BJP which is now going to answer about associating with these self-styled godmen. All right, this is a tweet from 3rd January of 2023. नारायण साकार हरि की संपूर्ण ब्रह्मांड में सदा सदा के लिए जय जयकार. Akhilesh Yadav. I have it on my phone. The pictures speak 1,000 words for themselves. And whenever it suits our political convenience, we distance ourselves. Then we place the buck onto the administration. I wonder what Mr. Yadav would have said had he been in power.
Firstly, what Supriya ji said right now was very heart-touching. We can just give condolences to the people and sympathies to them, nothing more than that. And I'm pretty much sure all the panelists sitting on the screen and all the viewers that are watching me, I think that it's a definite fact that Mr. Akhilesh Yadav at least is not responsible for the tragedy that has happened. I would like to remind Mr. Sharad Trivedi.
He attended that satsang in the year 2023, Vivek Silas, and it's an open secret that this godman has a notorious reputation. He has a criminal past. He was arrested years ago. He has an FIR. Did Mr. Yadav did not know whose satsang he was attending that time? All right, so you admit that Akhilesh ji was very much ignorant.
I don't disagree with you. Mr. Akhilesh Yadav must have definitely attended the satsang. Like the Honorable Prime Minister
he has
attended the satsang of Asharam Bapu.
The photographs.
Right now, he has attended, ma'am. Let me say, please don't heckle me.
No, I'm not
Let me-
heckling.
let
I
me
want
put
acknowledgement
my
of the
point across,
mistakes we
please.
as a society are making.
Okay. Mr. Akhilesh Yadav attended his satsang, as what you have said, I agree to that. Likewise, Mr. Modi attended the satsang of Asharam Bapu. And the basic point that I am trying to make here is Mr. Akhilesh Yadav responsible for whatever has happened? Is Mr. Akhilesh Yadav responsible for the 121 lives that have been lost? I want to remind Mr. Sharad Trivedi about a couple of years back. We were sitting on a channel where we were discussing about the cremation ground roof that fell in Meerut, Muradnagar, and 25 people died. And the same Mr. Sharad Trivedi was saying, no one will be spared. We are setting up an inquiry, this and that, everything. What has happened to that? 25 people died there. And his MLA from Loni, Mr. Nand Kishore Gujar, I never wanted to politicize it, but I have to. Mr. Nand Kishore Gujar, Loni MLA from the Bharatiya Janata Party, said that we have to give 50% commission in Lucknow. That is what we are seeing. The health facilities of Uttar Pradesh has been totally exposed, what Supriya ji has right now said. The first responsibility of any government, be it the Bharatiya Janata Party government, the Samajwadi Party government, or the Congress government, is the protection of its citizens. The first and foremost duty of any government is the protection of its citizens. Is this the way to protect the citizens? That is my question.
Glad
what was the
that you're
administration
calling
doing?
a
What was the
spade a
commissioner?
spade.
What was the
Sharad
DM?
Trivedi,
What was the DM
Sharad
doing? What was the
Trivedi.
SSP doing?
All right. Point taken. Sharad Trivedi, would you like to come up with a rebuttal? Because I need to go to Mr. Arvind Kumar as well.
I just want to remind my friend Vivek that in the particular case that he's talking about, the people were arrested and they are already facing court cases. We cannot expedite or reduce the time in the court. The moment the court comes to a conclusion, they'll be prosecuted, they'll be condemned. Whatever is the court order, we are going to abide by it.
All right, Arvind Kumar Jain, first of all, thank you so much for patiently awaiting your turn, sir. But Mr. Jain, as the former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, where have been the lapses? Do you not agree that the godman, his name in fact missing from the FIR and the SDM's initial report in itself, speaks volumes?
FIR is lodged generally against people against whom charges are proved.
Okay.
I don't think charges are proved against Suraj, so-called godman. So, and it's an open investigation. SIT has been formed. They are recording the statements of the victims of the families whose members have been injured. They are recording the statements of policemen. None of the family members of victims or injured, they have so far named Baba in this, that he is responsible. They are trying to get evidence, and once evidence is there, I am 100% sure that this Baba will be booked. And you have to produce evidence also in a court of law, because there will be a battery of lawyers in favor of Baba. You have to produce case diaries before magistrate that on these grounds he has been arrested. So in my opinion, police is doing the right thing. Within 2-3 days, I think they will get some evidence. Some people are now speaking against Baba. There is quite a bit of anger against him. Once they get evidence, and the police is already looking for this person, and they are conducting raids also. Mobiles are switched off. They are having some problem because he has a vast network of disciples. But I think he'll be traced and he will be booked.
So, Mr. Jain, are you saying that the administration has been innocent so far, and that all those permits that were given were in fact given in ignorance just because the Sevadars were owning up to the responsibility of managing the crowd?
No. Administration is, in my opinion, quite a bit responsible. They should have visited the place where the permission is being given. It is next to GT Road. It should not have been given. Proper arrangements should have been there, and they were not listening to policemen also, and so in that case, SP and DM should have intervened. And if Baba was not agreeing to the conditions, then the permission granted to for holding the satsang should have been withdrawn. I am of the firm opinion that police administration is at fault and action shall be taken against them also.
All right. In fact, I'd like to hear from Mr. Trivedi. Mr. Trivedi, should we now expect an arrest once the whereabouts of the godman are known?
Yes, as Jain Saab has already said that the inquiry is on, nobody is going to be spared. The SIT is there, the eyewitnesses' statements are being recorded, the investigating officers who were involved in it, their statements are being recorded. The people who had given the permission, whether it is the district magistrate or the junior officers, they are all going to be part of the inquiry. And the inquiry is being held by no less a person than a senior High Court judge. There is a judicial inquiry. The additional Director General Commissioner and DGP Uttar Pradesh and Chief Secretary all are involved in that. This matter is being taken very seriously. Honorable Prime Minister himself is keeping a close eye on this tragedy. It's a tragedy of Himalayan proportions. We are not running away from it. We are going to nail the guilty. I can assure you on the behalf of the government that we are going to nail the guilty. Let's get the report. We don't want to end up in the stage of Samvidhan ki hatya because the Samvidhan says that we have to give time.
You know what comes as a shock, Mr. Trivedi, I'll tell you. Because you're talking about the same Chief Minister of a state where bulldozer Raj was in fact tom-tommed about, which is why it shocks us even more that this kind of delay is taking place. Supriya, I'll give you a minute.
Could I just add one thing to it?
I don't need a minute. I just think... Please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Trivedi,
Is he
finish.
talking or am I talking?
No, let Mr. Trivedi finish and then I'll, of course, let you know.
Lot of tom-tomming is being done about this bulldozer justice. The bulldozer justice has been approved. All the actions done by the bulldozer has already been approved by even the Supreme Court. So that is not that we are going around with the bulldozer bulldozing anybody whether he is guilty or not. All the people who have been affected are guilty. In this case also, we nail the guilty, not... All
right, so I'm hoping you will use the same yardstick of justice even for this self-styled godman. Yes, Supriya.
I have a very quick last and a very small thing to say. You know, you are going to have a fact-finding report, you have set up inquiry. The fact that there were lapses even before this event happened, before that Samagam happened, the LIU report was ignored, there was no ambulance on the spot, 2.5 lakh people, 40 policemen, the fact that the hospitals were found wanting in basic necessities. Who is responsible? Why have heads not rolled as far as the DM, SP, hospital administration is concerned? Why should people have faith that the government is serious about it and is going to act? I mean, if it had happened anywhere else, heads would have rolled. Why are heads not rolling? That's the question that many people are asking. That's exactly what happened in Hathras, and I hate to say this. Hathras seems to have become this big blot on our civil society. Imagine what had happened in Hathras almost 2.5 years back when a girl was raped, brutal, and then she of course died, cremated at 2:30 in the morning. You do remember that the DM had gone to intimidate her family, but he was never removed. And that is the abortion, that is the travesty of injustice.
No, in fact, the travesty of justice...
Who's responsible?
No, the
is
travesty,
administration not accountable?
Supriya, the travesty is even worse when you are, we start politicizing it further by saying that anti-social elements were responsible for that stampede. Mr. Jain, I'd like to end with your thoughts because history speaks for itself. We've seen how religious gatherings have in fact turned into stampedes. In this particular stampede as well, as far as the Hathras horror is concerned, we all know what led to that stampede. People wanting the dust off the feet of the Guru, who in fact was in the car when he was leaving. Having said that, is it time that the government in fact addresses this kind of superstition which is now leading to tragedies of such mammoth proportions?
I have demanded that on the lines of Maharashtra, there should be an act in UP also at pan-India level. And such congregations and andhvishwas should be dealt with a very stern hand, and action should be taken against such people. I am of 100% of this opinion.
And for once, perhaps it can be a bipartisan issue when it comes to, in fact, extending political patronage to such kind of fraudulent people who call themselves Baba and spiritual leaders. It's extremely tragic, but that's the unvarnished truth of our country. Many thanks to you, Supriya, and the gentleman for joining in on this discussion. And with that, I in fact slip into a quick break. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned to The Right.